By the end of this video, when we open our inventory and drag our items around, they'll still be able to snap back to and go into their slots, but if we drag them off of our menu, they'll drop onto the floor. They'll do this nice little bounce, which is customizable, so you can make your items look either quite heavy or quite light, and they'll drop in this nice circle around your player. Then you'll be able to pick your items back up and throw them around all over again. We'll be using our inventory script from a previous video, so I'll link that below. Cool, let's check it out. Right now, if we go to our inventory page and drag these off of the inventory window, when we let go, they snap back to the slot that they were in before. So we'll keep it like this for anywhere on our menu, but otherwise we're going to edit our drag handler so that when we drop it outside our menu frame, it'll appear in our game on the floor. I'm going to go to our prefabs folder and go to our main item prefab, which is this green potion. I know that's the main one and not a variant because the variants have that hashed out icon on them. So if we scroll down in our item, we can find our ItemDragHandler Script. You can also find this inside scripts and then ItemDragHandler, and double click on this to open it up. Now in here, if we go and look at our on-end drag function that we wrote in our inventory UI video, which I'll link below, we have this if statement that checks if we're dropping on top of a slot. If we're not dropping on top of a slot, this is where we snap back to that original parent. So inside this else is where we're going to write if where we're dropping is not within the inventory, then we'll drop our item. Then we'll add an else and snap back to the original parent. So first, let's write a function that'll check if we're within our inventory. So below here, we'll want a function that returns true or false, which is a boolean or bool. And I'll name this is within inventory. We're going to want a parameter passed in here for the position of our cursor when we let go of our item. If we scroll up to see this function, you can see we get this event data passed in, which gives us the information of our mouser. I meant mouse and pointer and I said mouser. So if we take a look inside event data by going event data dot, you can see there's lots of information given. Scrolling down, I can see we've got a position. So this is what we're going to want to use, event data position. And if I hover over position, you can see that's of type vector2. So I'll delete this. Back down to our function. In the parameters, we now know we want a vector2, and this will be our mouse position. Cool. Now, if I turn on our menu and then turn on the inventory page, this inventory page is what I'm going to use to check if we're within these bounds. When we play our game, we can see the slots are children of this inventory page. So keep that in mind as we go back to our script. As we currently have the original parent set as a variable in our game, this original parent is the slot that our item was originally in. It doesn't really matter what slot it is. I just want to use it by going original parent dot parent. So if we remember, the parent of any slot is the menu page. So we're getting the menu page, and I'll be able to go get component and pass in rect transform so we can get the shape of our inventory panel. I'll set this inside a variable called inventory rect. And then here is where we'll call a function which will return a boolean. So we can go return rect transform utility, which is a Unity helper class. Then go dot rectangle contains screen point, which you can probably guess what it does. We're checking if what we pass in, which is going to be our inventory rect, if it contains our mouse position. So is our mouse inside this transform? Cool, now we've got this function. We'll be able to go if, and we want this to be if it's not within the inventory, so we do exclamation mark to say not, then is within inventory, brackets, and remember we found that event data dot position. Cool. And in our braces is where we're going to want our drop our item, and then like we said, we're going to want an else where we're going to put our transform set original parent. So this else is going to snap back to OG slot. Next, let's write a function to drop our item. I'll scroll down to the bottom and go void drop item. And for this parameter, we're going to want to pass in the slot that is our original slot, as it contains all the data we need for our item. And so we can reset this slot to contain no item inside it anymore. So we can go original slot dot current item equals null to make sure that gets emptied out. Then let's break this up with comments again. First, what we're going to do is find the player, so we can drop the item near our player's position so that it's not just static and they all stack up. I'm going to find a random drop position, which is going to drop near our player. Then I'm going to instantiate a new version of our dropped item and then destroy the UI one. Now I tried just moving this item from the inventory instead of instantiating a new one, but the game kept breaking. So this is the easy, hacky way, and really your player shouldn't be able to drop that many items all at once, so this should be fine. So cool, first we want to find the transform of our player, so let's go transform, player transform equals GameObject.find GameObject with tag, pass in player, then we can go question mark dot transform. The question mark checks if it's null before we grab this transform. So if it is null, it won't crash here. And in case this is null, we're going to want to know in our game, even if it doesn't crash. So let's go if player transform equals null, debug.log error, and I'll pass in missing player tag. And then we'll return out so nothing else crashes. Next, we're going to want some variables. Next, we're going to want to add some variables for the drop distance from our player that our items will be able to scatter around. So I'm going to scroll to the top. I'm going to go public float min drop distance, and I'll set this to a default of 2f. And I'll hold down Control D to duplicate this and change this to max drop distance and set this to a maximum of 3f. So it's far enough away that we don't automatically pick it back up. It's not too far, so if you do want to pick it back up, it's not too annoying. Cool, with those I'll scroll back down. We'll want a vector 2 called drop offset, which will equal a random dot inside unit circle, which as you can see this says it returns a random point inside or on a circle within a radius of 1, blah blah blah, dot normalized times random dot range, and pass in our min drop distance and our max drop distance. So this is going to pick a random position in a circle for us, and then we're going to times that by our distances randomly. So it should drop randomly in a circle around our player. Very cool little bit of code there. Now to get this near our player, we go vector 2 drop position, and that'll equal our player transform dot position plus our drop offset. This has got a red underline because our player transform dot position is a vector 3. To turn this into a vector 2 to make this work, at the beginning of player transform you go brackets vector 2 brackets. Cool, now we can use these positions and go instantiate game object, which is the game object this script is on, which is actually our item, since that's what we're dragging. Then drop position and comma quaternion, I'll learn how to say that properly one day, identity, which just means that it'll have a normal rotation. Great, so we've made a new version of this game object, which is going to appear in our game scene. Now we can destroy the UI game object, even though they are the same thing, but yeah, I tried just moving the position. If you can get that working, please show me. So great, let's get our drop item function and scroll up to where we say if this is not within our inventory where we're dropping this, drop item, and we want that original slot. Very cool. Let's go back to Unity, and when we press play, I'll pick up these items as our inventory is empty, open our inventory, and now if we drag this item on the menu, we see it still snaps back to the original parent, goes to other slots, but if I drag this off our menu, it's gone from the UI and it's appeared in our scene just around our froggy. If I drag this heart item down to our hotbar, our dragging functionality is actually still active on our hotbar. So if we drag this off, you can see it appears up the top. Amazing! Now with these, we can still pick them up and they're back in our inventory. Very cool! Now, you may agree that when I drop these and they just plop down very statically, it looked weird. So I was like, I need to add some cool effect to this. I know you've seen it in the intro, so you know what I'm talking about. Let's add that in. Now I'm actually going to write a new script for our bounce effect that we're going to be able to attach to our items. This is supposed to be our green potion. I have said before I'm not an artist. And not only just our items, but the way I'm going to write this bounce effect script is going to work even for if we add like a little slime enemy. Maybe he wants to bounce around. Or what else bounces? Flowers? Maybe flowers want to do some bouncing. This is where you need to think about your scripts and not attach them too tightly to just like items, because things like this can be reused. So cool, in my assets, I'm going to right click and go create C# script. I'm going to name this bounce effect. Let's double click on this to open it up. And in here, we're not going to need start or update, but we are going to want a public float for our bounce height, which I'm going to set to 0.3f. I'm going to go Control D to duplicate this, and this will be our bounce duration, which I'll set to 0.4f, and then a public int for our bounce count, which I'll set to 2. This is my second attempt at my potion, it's not getting better. The reason we have the bounce count is because the way I imagine this is our item is going to drop out and go boom, boom, So it's going to move it up and down with decreasing height with each bounce. It gives a nice effect, you'll see. Well, you saw it at the beginning, so whatever. So cool, we're going to want a function. So go public void start bounce. So our other scripts can call this, like when an item is dropped, we can call start bounce. Then we're going to call a coroutine, which we're going to write now. So let's go private IEnumerator. I'll call this BounceHandler. And in here, we're going to want transform of the object that we're bouncing, so we can manipulate that. We need to store the vector free of the start position of our object, so we make sure it's not bouncing and then ending up somewhere weird. So we'll store object transform.position. We also want to add a float locally, so I'm going to go local for the height and set this to be bounce height, and then another float for local duration equals bounce duration. This is because we're going to be decreasing the amount with each bounce, so we need some variables to be able to actually change and manipulate without changing our stored ones at the top here. So now to get this bouncing, we're going to do a for loop and go for int I equals 0 semicolon, I is less than bounce count semicolon I++. And this is where we're going to call a new coroutine where we're going to bounce, and after each one of those bounces, we're going to set our local height be times equal 0.5f, so that'll half the height that it will bounce the next time, and then set our local duration to times equal 0.8f. So it won't bounce as fast, but I don't want to completely half it, otherwise it will like move in slow motion. And then at the bottom here, we'll go object transform dot position equals the start position. Because if this was an enemy, you wouldn't want it going up and down and actually moving on the map. We want it to bounce and then come back to where it was. So cool, let's write this other coroutine for bouncing. So let's go private IEnumerator bounce. And we're going to want a transform for the object transform, a vector free for the start position, a float for the height, and a float for the duration. First, we'll decide where the peak will be of our bounce. So let's go vector free peak equals the start plus vector free dot up. So we know we're going in the up direction times height. Then let's set a float, which will store our elapsed time. I'm just going to call this elapsed. Oh, and we'll set it to a default of 0f. So every time this starts, we're starting back at 0 for our timer. Cool, so now we're gonna do some loops to move upwards, and then another loop to move back downwards to complete our bounce. So firstly, we'll go while elapsed is less than duration that we've got passed in. Our object transform dot position is going to equal a vector free, and we're gonna be using lerp, which if you didn't know, interlopes between 2 points. So we're gonna wanna move from our start position to our peak, and the amount of time we want that to do that over is our elapsed divided by our duration. We'll then go elapsed plus equals time dot delta time, then yield return null. So that once we reach this point, it'll keep going around this while. Cool, so that'll move us up to our peak. And once this while is finished, we're going to want to set our elapsed time back to 0. As now we want to move downwards. And guess what we can do for this? Copy this move upwards code, paste it to the move downwards. And this time in the lerp, we're going to want to start at our peak and end at our start. So you just switch these two values around, and that's what you need to be able to bounce. Cool. If we scroll back up in our bounce handler, we need to now call our bounce. So let's go yield return bounce, pass in our object transform, our start position, our local height, and our local duration. Now with this local duration, you actually want a slash to divide this by 2. As this is going to be called multiple times, we don't actually want it to run for that long. It'll be very slow. Dividing this by 2 gives you a pretty good bounce length. So cool, now up in this start bounce, all we have to do is go start coroutine, brackets, bounce handler, and pass in our transform. And I've just realized this transform is always accessible. So anywhere we have objects transform, we're actually just using our own transform. You can tell I wrote this and didn't double check it through. Duh. Okay, so bounce handler. We don't need to pass in this object transform. I'm going to remove this parameter and we'll be able to see that everywhere we use objects transform, you can just use transform because it's the object that we are attaching the script to. So of course, you just use the transform. Bounce doesn't need transform passed in because we're still in the same script. Oh, I'm silly. As the code gets more complex, I make more mistakes. And you know, that's fair. This is game development. So cool. Now with this bounce script, we'll be able to go to our ItemDragHandler Script and look back on our drop item function. When we instantiate our dropped item, we're also going to make it bounce. So we're going to need to store this game object in a variable when we instantiate it. So I'll call this drop item. Now on our item prefabs, we're going to be attaching that bounce script in a moment. So we'll be able to go drop item dot get component and grab the bounce effect, go brackets dot start bounce. And that's all you need. Very cool. Let's go back to Unity and add that script. So in your prefabs folder, again, go to your main item there. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, find our BounceEffect Script in your assets. I'll drag this into our script folder in a moment. For now, I'm going to drag this straight on to our item object in the inspector. And you'll see our bounce effect is there with all the bouncy variables. Back in my prefabs, I have these two different items. A fun thing you can do, which I found through testing, is actually making these bounce with different values here. So this green item is bouncing twice. Let's go to our heart item, and I'm going to make this bounce 3 times. Set the bounce duration to 0.3 and the bounce height to 0.4. So cool, let's press play and test this out. We'll pick up our items. I'll go to our inventory and drag these into our hotbar so we can see the bouncy effect. First, we've got our 2 bounce green item. Bounce, bounce. Very nice, very cool. Heart item. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Okay, so did you see how they look kind of different? To me, I feel like it looks like the heart item is lighter because it bounces more times and goes a bit higher. And the green item now looks heavier because it bounces slow and like only twice. It's like boom, boom. And even when you drop these items inside the inventory window, you will see it's bouncing. You just have to tab out of the inventory really fast to see it. But cool, it's all working. In our next video, this is my test project, so you're getting a little sneak peek here. I've actually written 2 types of map systems, the first being this one I'm showing you now, based on hand-placed images. And coming after that will be our dynamic map, which will be generated automatically based on the areas of your game. Very cool, very exciting. Be sure to like and subscribe to see that. And another reminder, our top-down template is still on sale for half price, where you get all our finished features and any of the future features for free. So once all these features are out, it's going to be double the price. If you buy it now, you get all those features for half price. It's a really good deal. It's way too cheap. I might even increase that final price because the stuff I'm adding is getting quite detailed. But cool, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!